You remember going to Bell?
Yeah.
Do you like going to Bell?
Yes, I do.
Who do you get to see at Bell?
Miss Jane.
Miss Jane and who else?
I get to see it there.
It can be an adult or it can be one of your friends. Who do you get to see?
All my friends.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What do you do at Bell?
Play.
Play?
Yeah.
What else do you do?
Make trail mix.
Make trail mix? What else do you do?
Listen to music.
Listen to music. When you're doing all these things, are you also learning?
Yes, I am.
What are you learning when you do these things? What are you learning at Bell? All right, so what do you learn at Bell? Braille. What else do you learn? Do you work with your cane?
Yeah.
So what do you learn with your cane?
Sweeping.
Sweeping?
Yeah.
Yeah? Do you have fun while you're learning?
Yes, I do.
Do you like going to Bell?
Yes, I do.
What's your favorite thing to do at Bell?
Play.
Play?
Yeah.
What do you play with? Magnets?
Yeah.
Do you play games to simulate Braille?
Yeah.
Yeah. What's one of your favorite games that you play to simulate Braille?
I'm thinking of what's my favorite game.
Well, I know you play in the hula hoops and make dots with your body.
Yeah.
And I know you play with muffin tins and balls.
Yeah.
So what's your favorite?
Muffin tins and balls.
Yeah.
That's my favorite game.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you like going to Bell?
Yes, I do. Thank you for asking.
Oh, you're very welcome. Are you excited to go next year?
Yeah, I'm not going to go this year.
Well, we didn't go this year because of coronavirus. It was online, and Mommy didn't think you'd get a lot out of it. But are you ready to go after school this year, this coming summer?
Yeah.
Yeah. Say, yay, Braille 2021.
April 2021.
Woot woot.
Woot woot.
All right, you know me. What I liked about the Bell Academy, going to McDonald's, cooking, and hanging out with my friends.
The 73rd Annual Convention of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky is now in session, and the crowd goes wild. Woo! So we have an exciting program this year. Even though we are virtual, it's going to be very entertaining and something that I think is going to be interesting for everyone. So we're going to get started right away without hesitation. And I'd like to introduce to you this morning for our invocation, a member of the National Federation of the Blind of Greater Louisville Board of Directors, and becoming a very valuable member of this organization, Mr. Bill Dethridge.
Our holy God, we are grateful to be here once again at the Federation of the Blind of Kentucky's State Convention. Although we realize that some things are different this year, we realize that some things will never change. How you've been with your people for thousands of years throughout history, guiding them, helping them to learn and to grow. We think of how you, back in the times of Moses, led your people from slavery to freedom, and how you have been with our leaders of the National Federation of the Blind, started back in the 1940s when they realized that things for people who are blind could and should be different, and worked to make those changes possible. We thank you for our leaders of today who are struggling in this pandemic to make changes possible, and we are grateful for our leaders, not only on the national but state and local level. God, we are grateful that we can come together in this time at this convention. We realize that we're a family, oh God, and whether we get together in person or by technology, we are family just the same. And that's what's important. We thank you for our Federation family. We ask you to guide us as we go through this convention, and after this convention is over, God, may we take the knowledge that we have learned here and be able to share it with those people who we come in contact with, not only by what we say, but what we do throughout our deeds and actions. For these things we ask in your name. Amen.
Thanks, Bill, for those inspiring words. And it's certainly a good way to get our convention off to a good start. Now I'd like to introduce to you another member of the National Federation of the Blind of Greater Loyalville Board of Directors, our youngest board member to sing the national anthem, Miss Taryn Seif.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof tonight that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Thank you, Miss Taryn. That was absolutely beautiful. And in keeping with our honoring of country and the Federation, let's all join in saying our pledge, our NFB pledge. I pledge to participate actively in the efforts of the National Federation of the Blind to achieve equality, opportunity, and security for the blind, to support the policies and programs of the Federation, and to abide by its Constitution. I heard everyone. That was great. Sounded great. We have with us this morning a very special guest, and I'm so honored that he is with us. We have our Secretary of State, Michael Adams. Mr. Adams is a native of Paducah, Kentucky, and is serving as the 77th Secretary for the Commonwealth of Kentucky. Secretary Adams attended public school and was the first in his family to graduate with a bachelor's degree. And then after graduating from the University of Louisville in its third McConnell's Scholars class, he attended Harvard Law School on low income aid. After returning to Kentucky, he clerked for Judge John Hayburn, worked with Mitch McConnell in his 2002 reelection campaign, and as Deputy General Counsel to former Governor Ernie Fletcher. He was also counsel to Deputy Attorney General in the second Bush administration. In 2007, Michael Adams became a full-time practicing election lawyer, first as general counsel to the Republican Governors Association, and later opening a national practice in the field. He has represented several national political committees, congressmen, and statewide campaign efforts in all 50 states. And because of his unique experience in election law, Governor Bevin appointed Secretary Adams to the Kentucky Board of Elections. Secretary Adams is happily married and a proud father. And without further ado, for some opening remarks, I would like to welcome Secretary Michael Adams to our convention.
Thank you so much. It's great to be with you this morning. I understand the theme of your convention is inclusion. I'd like to start by talking about that. In my campaign last year, I talked about the need to bridge the divide that we see in our politics between rural and urban, between Democrats and Republicans, liberals and conservatives. I talked about our state flag, how we've got two individuals on there, one in buckskin and one in formal dress, shaking hands. That to me is a reflection of the differences in Kentucky in education, geography, and socioeconomics. But we've got to come together and shake hands at the end of the day in order to function as a society and to govern. So I talked about growing up in a very Democratic family and being the only Republican. And I offered to run an inclusive office once I got here. I had planned to travel the state this year talking about these issues, and I've not been able to do that due to the pandemic. I got a much harder challenge, which is to actually live into all those words and actually govern that way. So that's what I've done. I'm pleased to say that literally from the beginning of my term in January, I've cleared my schedule to make time for groups on the other side of the aisle from me, the ACLU and the NAACP and the League of Women Voters, Kentuckians for the Commonwealth. They always have a door into my office. And I do that for a couple of reasons. One is to send a signal about inclusion and let people know that I don't just work for my side, I work for everybody. But also that helps me ensure better policy. To your pledge, equality, opportunity, and security, those are things I've tried to push this year for all of our voters, regardless of their politics. As we all know, we had a very successful election in June, actually the envy of the rest of the country, the most successful election we've had in the US during the pandemic. That would not have been possible if I'd not been willing to work with our Democratic governor and Democratic members of the Board of Elections and Democratic county clerks across the state, as well as the Republicans. I think we've got to have the government working together across party lines in a crisis like this. Ideally, at all times we would, but certainly in a time of crisis. The governor and I have reached a partnership for the general election as well, with great options to vote. I'll quickly run through those. It's never been easier in Kentucky history, never, than it is today to vote. There's 4 easy ways to do it. You can vote in person on November 3rd, Election Day. We've opened up many more polling locations than we had in the primary. Fortunately, we've been successful in finding a new generation of poll workers to sub in for our elderly who are not comfortable working the polls. We also are going to have in-person voting before Election Day for 3 weeks, 6 days a week. You're going to have the option to vote in person before November 3rd. That's unprecedented in Kentucky history. We're doing this to space out the crowds and ensure social distancing but also to make it convenient for people to vote. Our 12-hour election day arrangement is something that comes from the 1800s, and we've never re-examined it. Perhaps we should do that. The third way to vote is to vote by absentee ballot. If you go to govoteky.com, you can request your absentee ballot. And then you've got two ways to vote absentee even. You can mail that back at our expense. We're paying for your postage. Or if you prefer not to mail it, you can deliver it to a drop box. We've spent about $600,000 here in Frankfort on buying drop boxes for county clerks across the state. Every clerk will have them. These things are like tanks. They're impenetrable. They're a place you can drop your ballot and know it's been received by your county clerk if you prefer not to mail it back. So 4 easy ways to vote. And let me give you some good news if you didn't see this already yesterday. In a partnership with the State Board of Elections, I'm pleased to announce that we've now got technology available for the first time in Kentucky history for blind voters to be able to vote without assistance, specifically to be able to vote absentee without assistance. Traditionally in Kentucky, only 2% of our voters voted by absentee ballot. That's been consistent across the entire time I've been involved in politics professionally, going back to the 90s. Like clockwork, it's 2% absentee. In our primary this year, it was 75% absentee. In our general, I think it's going to be probably 35 or 40% absentee. When you've got a much higher utilization of that type of voting, it raises concerns about folks who aren't as able to vote that way historically and have had to vote in person to ensure a secret ballot. So I've taken action through an arrangement with the governor as well as executive orders on my part to ensure that we have this capacity. If you'd like more information about this, call 502-573-7100. I'm happy to walk you through that process. I want you to know that my door is always open. I work for everybody, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, you name it. I'm very proud of that. I'm proud that our election system is not seen as suspect and rigged for one side or the other. Despite criticism from both sides, I think we've got the best system in our country for election this year. And so I'm honored to be with you today. And if I can ever be of service to you, just please let me know. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Secretary Adams, for all of the good information. It never hurts to repeat all of our voting options time and time again. And we are so pleased that you were able to join us and hope that you can stick around and learn more about what the National Federation of the Blind is all about. Thank you so much.
Well, I have an interview with NPR about to start, but I appreciate the invitation. Thank you so much.
Thank you. All right. Well, let's get down to the business of the convention. Like to introduce to you our door prize team, Lonnie Swafford, his lovely wife, Ashley Swafford, and their daughter, Emma. So we want Lonnie to join us and give us all the information that we're going to need today about door prizes and how you will go about receiving your door prizes and on and on and on. Take it away, Lonnie.
Thank you, Madam President. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Good. I wanted to first say welcome on behalf of Louisville. We are absolutely thrilled that everyone has been able to come together. I know these have been some challenging times, and a special thank you to our convention. We have 3 $25 Amazon gift cards that we'll be drawing for this morning. And then we have 3 more that we'll be drawing before lunch. So we have Emma and Ashley, my wife, Emma's my daughter, who will be helping draw those out. So we are going to allow you the opportunity to respond to an email address that we have. That's going to be nfbkdoorprize@gmail.com. So what we will do is Emma or Ashley will draw 3 names, and then you will have 10 minutes if your name is drawn to respond to the email address. And if you are wanting the door prize to be sent to a different address for email than what you use for registering at convention, please do include that in your message. Madam President, did you want to go ahead and draw for 3 of those now?
Sure. Why not? Let's get things going.
All right. So Emma's going to help us. Emma, do you have one? Read the name. Stacy Menard. Apologize if I'm mispronouncing that. We're picking the second one.
Michelle Freeholm.
Michael Freeholm.
And her last one is Jan
Jan Gaywar. I apologize again if we're mispronouncing that name.
And that's their 3 names.
Congratulations. We will set a timer starting now for 10 minutes. So I hope to see those emails. Thank
Bonnie,
you. Yes.
you might want to spell the last names. It might help a little.
Okay, we have.
You might have.
For Jan,
It's
G-A-Y.
Gayworth.
Gayworth. I'm sorry, Gayworth.
And that's my fault. It's really Gawith. It's Gaywith.
Okay. Thank you. I apologize.
No, it's my fault in that case.
Stacy M.
And Stacy's last name is M-A-Y-N-A-R-D. Maynard.
And then Michael.
All right.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, door prize team. And I certainly hope that everyone calls very quickly.
More audio option. Mute.
All right. We're going to take care of a few housekeeping things. You will be texting your votes this afternoon when we take care of the business of the organization, when we vote on our resolutions and our officers that we're going to elect. So the number that you will text, and I think you need to write this down and put it in a safe place, put it in your contacts or somewhere that you can get a hold of it in quick order. The number is 516-874-2710. 516-874-2710. You're only going to have 2 minutes to vote, so you don't want to have to be scrambling around looking for this number. As Lonnie said, you will need to email to confirm or to receive your door prize. And again, that email address is nfbkdoorprize@gmail.com. And another request we have is that if you are a presenter this morning and your screen name or your Zoom name is something different other than what we know you by, if you would please go to the chat room and let us know so that we can look for you and know that you are with us this morning. We had an incident yesterday where someone's screen name was different and we didn't know the person was joining us. Another housekeeping detail, if you are experiencing any technical difficulties, I can hardly keep a straight face, or if you have a question about the convention, you should call Jane Seif at area 502-500-7675, and she'll try to help you as best she can. 502-500-7675. Call or text. Call or text, she said. Okay. And one of the highlights of our conventions is always introducing our national representative to give our report from the national office. And this individual has been a friend of mine now for so long. I don't even know how many years, but he and his wife are dear friends of mine, people that I know that I can count on in whatever situation. Although we're Federation family, I know that I could count on him for just about anything. So I want all of you to give a warm and hearty welcome to our national representative, the second vice president of the National Federation of the Blind, and the president of our Indiana affiliate, Mr. Ron Brown.
I bring you greetings, my fellow Federation family from Kentucky. This is Ron Brown, second vice president of the National Federation of the Blind and the state president of the National Federation of the Blind of Indiana. It is such a pleasure to be with you guys again. I've done Kentucky's convention, but it's been many years ago. So I look forward to spending this weekend with you all. I bring you greetings from our national president, President Mark Riccobono. As you all know, he loves to attend these conventions. Unfortunately, he can't be at all of them. So he sends us to represent the national office and to represent him. And I hope I can do him justice. The National Federation of the Blind of Indiana is pleased to send its greetings as well. We have our state convention in Indiana on October the 9th and 10th. We would love for all of you all to come out and to join us. We're going to have a great time in Indiana. The theme of our convention is focusing on our future. I see your theme this weekend will be inclusion, and that's a powerful word. We'll have a lot of good topics this weekend to expound upon as well as to learn from each other. I'm excited about being here. I want to bring you the presidential report, not too long, but at least I hope I can give you a lot of information that you can grow from and learn from and take back and share with other Federation family members and others who are not in the Federation. As you all know, in July, we had our national convention, and what a wonderful convention that was. This was the first time ever that we had a national convention virtually. We had approximately 8,000 people to register for our convention. In essence, we had over 10,000 people who were listening in on our platforms via Newsline and some of our other Zoom platforms and Alexa. And we had such a wonderful time at our convention. It went really, really well, and I thank all of the members and our Federation family out in Baltimore, the center staff who worked very, very hard bringing this convention to fruition. It was a great time. I think everybody got something new out of it, and we learned that just because we couldn't get together physically, we got together and had a wonderful convention virtually. But next year, our national convention will be held in the great state of Louisiana. The city in particular is New Orleans, Louisiana. Now, this is supposed to be an in-person convention. This convention will be held July 6th through the 11th. We want all of you all to plan to be there, and we all plan to be there. Of course, this will be contingent on whether or not the coronavirus pandemic is over and done with, and we can all get together in person. What an exciting time this will be. So put it on your calendars, July 6th through the 11th. And we'll be in New Orleans, and our first Vice President, Pam Allen, is ready to greet all of us and welcome us to town. I want to talk a little bit about this coming election this November. Of course, you know that our presidential election will be held November the 3rd. This is a very important and critical election. So we want to make sure that all blind people get an opportunity to participate in this election. We want you guys, if you can, to get out and vote. And we want the world to know that blind people do participate in the electoral process. If, for whatever reason, you cannot get out to vote, we want to make sure that you guys take advantage of accessible voting in your state. And here in Kentucky, I'm not sure if you guys have accessible voting, but you can call your county election board or your clerk's office and make sure you exercise your right to vote. We believe that it is critical. What we're trying to do as a Federation family, we're trying to get together to make sure that if you don't have accessible voting in all polling places, which we would love to have, we would at least love for you to access accessible voting in your clerk's office. And you can do that by early voting. One of the things that we have been working on is making sure that blind people have the right to vote independently and privately. If you guys get an opportunity, call your election board, call your county clerk's office, find out if they have accessible voting in the great state of Kentucky, and if they don't, then make sure that you get to a polling place that does. Remember, this election is very critical to us. So after you voted and may have had issues or may not have, we would like you all to contact Valerie Yingling and do a vote survey to find out how it went. If you had issues, make sure you let her know. Valerie Yingling works out of our national office. You can get a hold of her at vyingling@nfb.org. That's vyingling@nfb.org. Or you can reach her at our national headquarters number, extension 2440. So make sure you get a hold of Valerie Yingling and take the survey about voting. It's very critical that you do so. So one of the things that we have really been working on are advocacy issues. Some of the advocacy issues that we have been working on is the parental rights bill. We're trying to get all the states to pass a parental rights bill. And if you don't have one in the state of Kentucky, please, chapters and divisions, get together with your state affiliate and work on getting the parental rights bill passed here in Kentucky. It's very important to the blind that we have the right to parent our children in a way that we feel is appropriate for us as blind parents. There has been a lot of issues surrounding parental rights over the years. You all are aware of the blind parents in Missouri who got their child taken away simply because they were blind and didn't have anyone to go home with them to take the child home. We won that case and they were able to get their kids back. There's also other issues going on. We had just in the state of Indiana, a blind parent who divorced her husband, and in doing so, the judge decreed that the husband got the right to take the child home with him, simply because he was sighted and the mother was blind. Of course, we didn't stand for that, so we got together with our national headquarters and we filed an amicus brief against this judgment. And to make a long story short, we won the case. We have to fight injustices like that. We have a case going on right now in the state of Indiana where another blind mom divorced her husband and he came over to babysit the kids, or stay with the kids while she was at school. When she got home from school, she asked him to leave because she was home then, and he got irate and he wanted to jump on her and started performing domestic violence on her. So she had him locked up, took him to court, and in the court's decision, the judge, in her infinite wisdom, said to the mother that since you cannot see, we are going to drop all charges against him. And the prosecutor asked why, and she said that, well, she did not know who was hitting on her. Now, mind you, no one in the house was there except for her kids, which were upstairs, and him and her, which were downstairs. But the judge granted him the right to walk away from this case because she could not see him pummeling her. We find that this is discrimination and an injustice, and believe me, we're doing all the things we need to do to help right this wrong. So these are some of the things that we need to work on as blind parents. We need to let society know that just because we're blind does not mean we can't raise our children, does not mean we don't have the right to participate in society, does not mean that we're going to stay together with whom we marry or have a relationship with. What we want them to know is that we have the right to parent our children and to be just as good of a role model with our kids as any sighted person. Another advocacy case, a legal case in Michigan, a blind Amazon applicant filled out an application and wanted to work at Amazon. Amazon hired this person and said that she could come to work there. Her name was Marianne Myriad. Marianne thought she had a job until Amazon found out that she was blind, and then they did not hire her, saying that they didn't know what kind of job she could do there. In other words, go home and don't call us, we'll call you until we can figure it out. The National Federation of the Blind got involved with this case and settled out of court with this case. And Marianne now has an opportunity to work for Amazon. All she has to do is fill out the application process, and she will have a job working from home as a customer service representative. Then they had to give her an undisclosed amount of money. So the National Federation of the Blind takes this stuff serious, as you guys know. You know, just because you find out that we're blind doesn't mean we don't have capacity. It doesn't mean that we don't have the right to participate in the world. And you say you want us to fill job positions, but then you find out that we're blind, and then you want to take those positions away. Well, if you do, remember the National Federation of the Blind is not going to stand for this sitting down. We're going to hit you where it hurts, in your pocket. Marianne's case came out in favor of her, and we will fight this kind of fight as long as we have an organization. A couple of plaintiffs filed against the Internal Revenue Service. They filed in 2019 saying that the Internal Revenue's filing papers were not accessible to the blind. We couldn't get them in accessible format that we needed them to be in. We filed suit against the Internal Revenue. They said by the year, at least 2022, they're going to have all of their filings in an accessible format for the blind. You want us to file our taxes on time. You want us to pay our taxes on time, but you don't want us to give our tax filings in an accessible format so we can do so. They have agreed to settle with us, and we are going to get that done in the way that we need it to be given to us. Same thing with Social Security. Social Security kiosks weren't accessible. Social Security's papers that you sign when you're trying to sign up for SSI, where you have to bear witness to them, they would not let us sign them electronically. Okay, we filed a case against them. And now Social Security is going to make sure that all their kiosks that everyone else utilizes are accessible to the blind. They're also going to start accepting e-signatures from the blind. These are some of the cases that we have to, on a continuous basis, fight the good fight for. We know that the National Federation of the Blind is not going to take this kind of discrimination laying down. So that's what we do at our headquarters. That's why it's so important that you guys help to bring about new members to help us fight the good fight. And bringing about new members is another key point I want to make in this presidential report to you guys. Because of the fact that all of us are in this fight together and there's strength in numbers, and we want our members and our veteran members to all band together to help us collectively fight the good fight. We know our membership is key to us. We know that blind people all over the country have different issues, and we want to make sure that we're treated like first-class citizens. We also do this by the onboarding process of membership. This is a process where you can have the opportunity to join the Federation as a new member via your chapter or via a division. But mainly, we want you to join our family so that we can help you and you can help us bring about first-class citizenship and independence for all blind people in this country and around the world. So make sure that you invite someone to our conventions. Our national convention this year, we suspended the registration fee. And we did that because we wanted people to have an opportunity to see what the Federation is all about. I know a lot of people hear about us and they want to come to convention, but they may not have the money to come monetarily or the finances to get there when we have our national convention. So this year we suspended registration, and all people who wanted to see and listen and figure out what the Federation is all about got an opportunity to do so. In having that opportunity, they found out what a diverse and inclusive organization we are. And to help ensure that our organization stays diverse and inclusive, we have formed a diversity and inclusion committee. This committee consists of members of the Federation from all walks of life. Our president has put forth this committee, which is headed up by Sean Calloway of Washington, D.C., and Rosie Carranza of Louisiana. Between these two leaders, we have started diversity and inclusion committees in different state affiliates. Also, the National Board have put in our Constitution, our Code of Conduct, that a diversity and inclusion statement. So we're serious about all meaning all. Everybody participates. We're not trying to exclude anyone. It's in our Code of Conduct. Our President Rick Bono has talked about it in his 2018 banquet speech, his 2019 banquet speech, and you can go up at nfb.org and read those speeches. Very powerful, very powerful. So please, if you get an opportunity to listen to those speeches, read our Code of Conduct. If you know somebody that has been kind of wavering about getting into the organization because they fear that they won't feel included, let them know that we take it very seriously. We want everybody to get involved. As President Rick Bono often ends his messages by saying, let's go build the Federation, that's what we intend to do, by including everyone. The onboarding process can be found at membership at nfb.org. You can read about membership, how to get your new membership packet, and you get one of these beautiful, nice coins that let everybody know you are a member of the National Federation of the Blind. So we encourage all chapters, divisions, and members of the Federation to bring someone along and get them involved in our organization. It'll be the most life-changing experience they have. You know, our organization also helps in education. We help in the education arena by giving away 30 scholarships to a deserving student in the country. Every year, around November the 1st, the scholarship applications are made available at nfb.org/scholarships. A person can fill out their scholarship and maybe, just maybe, they'll be accepted as one of that 30. The Federation gives away over $100,000 in cash and prizes to a deserving student. We would encourage all of you, if you know a college student that is blind, full-time student to make an application and see if they can get one of our national scholarships. This scholarship is not only cash value, but it's a life-changing value in that you get to come to our convention and you get to see what the Federation family is doing and to be a part of that. It's so very important that we make sure students of the society that are blind get an opportunity to get these scholarships. We also have a program called the Balatin Award. The Balatin Award is an innovative award in the field of blindness. So if you know someone that has innovative ideas or that has done some good work in the field of blindness, please make sure you recommend them for a Balatin Award. This is a cash award and it's also a plaque, but it also gives you an opportunity to present at our national convention. The Jacob Balatin Award was started by a doctor out of Chicago, a medical doctor. He was blind. His name is Jacob Balatin. And he wanted to make sure that blind people got the opportunity to do innovative and creative things in this world. And so his foundation secured funding and they give it to the National Federation of the Blind to administer these funds. And we try to give it to a deserving individual, a deserving organization. So please, if you know anybody that is deserving of a Balatin Award, those awards applications come out again November 1st. And the closing date to have your applications in is April 15th. I'd like to also mention that when talking about new members coming to our organization, we do have a Kenneth Jernigan Scholarship. This Kenneth Jernigan Scholarship can give away to a deserving person who has never been to a national convention before. Now, it is not a full ride, but it helps get you to our convention so you can see what the Federation is all about. So if you know anybody that has never been to a convention and they would love to come, please get a hold of your state affiliate president and have them sign up for the Kenneth Jernigan Scholarship. It is another way of funding new members to get to our convention to see what our Federation family is doing. Let's talk a little bit about the legislative work that we have been doing. Next year, I would say that our Washington seminar will be held February the 8th in Washington, D.C. at the Capitol Holiday Inn, C Street, 550 C Street. We have had it there many, many years, and so it's going to be there again in 2021. You guys want to think about going to Washington. If you have never been to our Washington seminar, it is a treat, especially if you love legislation. If you love the kind of work we do on Capitol Hill, changing lives through our legislative efforts. Please get a hold of your state affiliate president. Let them know that you want to go to Washington and be a part of our political winds of change. Love to have you participate in our Washington seminar. So make sure that February the 8th that you get an opportunity to go to Washington with us. On Washington, we have been doing a lot of work in the ATAA, that's Accessible Technology Affordability Act. Accessible Technology Affordability Act. We've been trying to get Congress, in which we have 120 co-sponsors as of August of this year, and we have 24 senators co-sponsoring this bill. This will give blind people an opportunity to buy technology and get a tax credit for doing so. Technology for the blind is very expensive. And so this may enable a blind student, especially now during COVID, to buy technology. There's a lot of e-learning going on at home, and we can demonstrate to the Congress and senators that we need this technology in order for us to purchase laptops and accessible technology so we can use it at home and stay safe. And so we want you guys to help us call your congressmen and your senators and get them to co-sponsor and sign on to this bill. It's very crucial. We also had an opportunity to sign on to Sammy's Law. Now, Sammy's Law is where a young lady out of New Jersey was trying to catch a Uber or a Lyft, a ride share. As a result of that, trying to catch the ride share, she was killed. So the family got together and they passed a law called Sammy's Law. Now, this law was a good law, but the only thing about it, this law, when rideshare, Uber, and Lyft got ready to implement the safety features so that a sighted person could know who they were getting in the car with, have some kind of signal they can use if they were in trouble. Those safety features was not accessible to the blind. So we came on to that law and said that we need to have those safety features accessible to us. We ride Lyft, we ride, Uber all the time. We don't drive. This is very important to us. And most important is our safety. We had to make sure that they amended that Sammy's Law to say not to strike the law, but to enhance it for all people, not just sighted people. And so that's what we were working on, and that's what we did. The other laws that we are trying to pass is about education. And education is very crucial to us, especially testing. Some of the education and tests are not accessible to the blind. So we want to make sure that if in a university that doesn't have accessible tests, we want to know about it. And we want you to either talk to the president at the office of the president, or send him an email at the office of the president, or send Valerie Yingling, who's our legal representative, an email that you have found some of the educational testing to be inaccessible to the blind. We want to know about it. Education is important to us as it is to anyone else. We want to make sure that we are in the forefront of all education. We also are still working on the AIM High bill, accessible instructional material in higher education. We want to make sure that material is accessible to the blind. We're not telling anybody that their instructional materials have to be in whatever given format, but we want them to know that if you put it out to everyone else in the university, that it has to be accessible to us as well. So AIM High is very important to all of our college students to make sure that our instructional materials and our technology that the college brings forth is accessible to us. Of course, we're still working on the GAIN Act, which is about making sure that manufacturers make sure medical equipment and all kinds of technology in that field, buying stoves and microwaves and things of that nature, are accessible to us. We want to make sure that we spend our dollars, we go to a store, we bring that stove or refrigerator home that is accessible to us, that we can turn it on, an oven, or that we can utilize it without it being digitally enhanced and we can't access it. All these technologies and all these laws we try to work on, and this is important to us as blind citizens. The National Federation of the Blind has, at our national headquarters, we have BEL, Braille Enrichment Through Literacy and Learning. Braille Enrichment Through Literacy and Learning. The BEL project is a project where we take 2 weeks out of the summer and we work with kids from the age of 4 to 12. We put those kids learning with Braille lessons. We do a lot of fun stuff with the kids in the summertime too. And we take them on field trips and things of that nature. This year, we had to do a BEL programs from home. And so we sent over like 7 pounds of materials and canes and things of that nature to our kids that were in the Bail projects in the different states. And they got still an opportunity to learn virtually, our in-home Bail Academy. And this was the first time we've ever done that, and it went over well. So at the end of the summer, we had a Bailabration, as they called it. It's a Bail celebration. And everybody was on the Zoom call and congratulating them and the kids and what a wonderful job they did. We're going to continue to do parts of that. We want to let everybody know that we want to meet whatever way we can. If it has to be virtually or not, we still had our programs for our kids. Want to let you guys know that we have the Braille Pal or Reading Pals Club. And that's where you have a mentor with a blind kid, have reading with those kids in the summertime, and have a pal that reads the same books that they read, and have an opportunity to share together. We also have the Parents Club where we get together and have the parents teach their kids how to use the canes at an early age, the Early Explorers Club. And the Early Explorers program is giving parents the opportunity to be the first cane travel instructors to their kids. The Early Explorers give the kids the little cane, which is appropriately measured for their height. And then we give them teaching tools in order to help kids learn how to be early explorers. We know that the earlier a kid has a cane in their hand, the better traveler they will be. So we have the Early Explorers program. We have so many programs at the National Federation of the Blind, and it's only to enhance the lives of blind people around the country and around the world. In closing, I want you guys to know that it is a pleasure to be with you guys this weekend. I also want to say a little something about your state president. I have known Kathy for quite some time. I have served in a leadership capacity with Kathy since the early 80s and 90s and all the way up until now. And I know she's stepping down this year as your state president, but I also know that she's not going anywhere. It has truly been an honor and a privilege to serve with Kathy to make sure that the great state of Kentucky is moving forward and fulfilling all the needs of the blind of the state of Kentucky. And what an honor and a privilege to serve with her on the national board, on the state level, and in many, many capacities on different committees. Thank you, Kathy, for your service. I know you're not going anywhere, and I will truly, truly hold you in high regard as one of the finest leaders that I have ever got to know in the Federation. Thank you guys for this opportunity, and let's go build the Federation.
Gee, thanks, Ron. You're going to bring me to tears before this weekend is over. I can feel it coming, but thanks for your words of support and encouragement. And thank you for your national report. It is all encompassing. I've had to put many of those together myself as I served on the national board, and it's not an easy job. And I really appreciate you more than ever this year, knowing that your state convention is next weekend. This has got to be a trying time, but thank you for being with us. I know you're going to be around all weekend, so just jump in if you feel the need.
Yes, ma'am, and thank you so much. Those words I truly, truly mean from the bottom of my heart. Great convention so far.
Thank you. It's going to get even better. Our next guest is always willing to be with us. She comes from our merged age. And she's always willing to meet with us on our convention floor. So it is with great pleasure that I introduce to you again this morning, Miss Cora McNabb.
Thank you for allowing me to speak to you and represent the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation at your annual conference. First, I want to thank you and your organization for all the advocacy efforts on behalf of the blind and visually impaired. Your organization plays an important role in the state and also the country. I'm going to share with you just a few updates. Exciting news, October 1st, OVR will open up Category 4. We will have all 4 categories of service open in the state. This is the first time in years that Voc Rehab has not had a priority category close. Based on guidance from a few months ago, the Rehab Services Administration indicated that we needed to revamp our priority category definitions. So we held 2 public hearings last month, of which some of you were a part of, and we have changed our priority category definitions. For some of you that remember and have been around for years, the category definitions actually now better mirror the categories that the Office for the Blind had prior to the merger. So this is a good thing, good news. Service numbers are lower at this time. Referrals to the program are lower, and that is indicative of COVID-19. Many individuals have chosen to shelter at home. They've made the decision not to pursue employment at this time, and that is understandable. However, I do want to be clear that OVR is open for business. We're taking applications and we're serving individuals. Most of our services from the staff are done remotely, and we're doing this in the best manner as possible. We are still under the governor's executive order for no in-person services, and that presents a lot of challenges to us. We have developed 2 memos that give staff guidance. The first memo is on being able to authorize services through various vendors for services that are considered essential. The second memo that we did is a memo where staff can ask for an exception to being able to provide in-person services. And that is based on whether or not a service is considered to be necessary to prevent harm or safety concerns for an individual. And that will be decided on a case-by-case basis by the VR counselor along with a team of individuals. You know, an example of this would be if someone was a wheelchair user and they needed an AT specialist to adjust that wheelchair so that they're able to operate their modified van safely. Or if preventing a service could cause irreparable harm to someone. So I do want you to know that we are open and serving individuals. I have had a lot of questions about independent living, and we have to take into consideration the safety of our staff and the individuals that we're serving. As you all know, the bulk of the services in independent living are for older blind individuals, and that is a more vulnerable population. So we have faced a lot of challenges, had a lot of discussion about those services. And, you know, we want to make sure that we do not have staff going into homes and carrying COVID into the home to someone that is of a vulnerable age. The vendor program has taken a hard hit. We have assisted the vendors in applying for unemployment insurance or any other assistance and resources they can find. We also did a technical assistance call with the Rehab Services Administration on how we can assist the vendors and can we provide monetary help to them. And after receiving that guidance, we made the decision to utilize our unassigned vending income. And Corey met with the vendors, and the vendors voted on using the unassigned income. And they are currently working with the vendors to give them monetary assistance in purchasing stock, which isn't an easy decision for the vendors to make because they have to take into consideration when is the best time for them to purchase stock and reopen their stands or their operations. And we are basing the amount of money for each vendor on historical expenses. And we cannot just cut a check to a vendor. And so we will be using the Gordon's Foods master agreement through the state to purchase that stock for the vendor for their operation. I know that, the last 6 months have been difficult for us, and I'm sure it's been difficult for you, and I hope that you and your family stay safe through the upcoming winter season. I think that we will continue to be telecommuting for some time. And the centers, both our center in Thelma and the McDowell Center in Louisville, remain closed to in-person services. However, the staff are working to deliver services remotely as much as possible. I want to thank Kathy for asking me to record this video and speak to you at your virtual conference. And I hope you have a wonderful remainder of the conference. Thanks and have a great day.
Thanks so much, Cora. It's always a pleasure to have you with us. And you're always so willing to present, and it is appreciated more than you will know. And want to thank you for your service to the blind of the Commonwealth. And you know that we are willing to work with you and partner with you. And let's keep this relationship going and building. Our next guest has been with us hasn't been with us in the last couple of years, but again, it's always a pleasure to welcome to our convention the director of our Talking Book Library, Miss Barbara Penegor. Take it away, Barbara.
Hello, I'm Barbara Penegor with the Kentucky Talking Book Library. I'm sorry we can't all be there together, but here's what's going on with Talking Books. First of all, we never had to stop service once the COVID pandemic started. In mid-March, many of us were assigned to work from home, but we had minimal staff there in the building to continue essential services. So Janet, who's one of our librarians, she continued to come in every day to answer the phones and help out patrons when they called. If she received emails or if she had a need that she could email those of us working at home, she did so. And Gary, who is our circulation staff member, he came in every day to get books checked in, get cartridges made and checked out and put in the mail so that you all could continue to receive your books, as well as Braille. He also pulled the Braille to send it out. Our building is closed to the public, and when we come in, we have to wear a mask. Our temperature is taken when we enter the building, and we have to sign an acknowledgement saying we do not have any symptoms of the COVID illness. And we all maintain social distancing. We can take off our mask while at our desk, but once we move around, we must wear masks in the building. Our studio, of course, is closed since our building's closed to the public. Our volunteers cannot come in to record or proofread or monitor recording sessions. So we've not been able to record anything since March, excuse me. But even that said, Brian has been working from home on work that's related to digitizing the old cassette books. So they will still be available. Michael, who's our machine guy, amongst other things, he comes in 2 or 3 days a week as needed to check in machines, inspect them, clean them, repair them, and get them out to patrons as they're needed. While working at home, he also works on digitizing the old cassette books, so they'll be available as digital books. I am coming into the office 1 day a week. And the rest of the week I'm working at home on administrative tasks. So I'm only there, usually most weeks I'm there on Thursdays. Let's see. Some of my staff were reassigned to help out the unemployment insurance agency because of the need during the COVID pandemic. They are all back now, but most of them were gone from mid-March to July, I believe, and one of them did not come back to us till August. So now Susan and Tracy, librarians Susan and Tracy, are alternating weeks to come in. So Janet is there every day, and then either Susan and Tracy. So we have 2 librarians there to take calls to help patrons. We have Gary there doing circulation. Michael comes in as needed to do machine duties. I come in 1 day a week. Brian's working from home on studio duties. And then Jeff, who many of you have talked to on the phone when he answers the phone, he is working downstairs. He kind of does 2 different jobs. In talking books, he does some administrative tasks and answers phones. Then he also works downstairs in the state library distributing materials to public libraries and to state employees. So he's been busy doing that and has only been able to be in talking books a little bit lately. So I've been doing some of his duties, some of his filing and, processing duties while he's unavailable. Also related to the COVID pandemic is the issue of safety. And of course, the safety of our employees, our patrons, our volunteers is important to us. So as I mentioned earlier, we're taking precautions here in the building and we're still closed to the public, so our volunteers can't come in, which means we're also focusing safety on our patrons. So when materials come into the building, Gary wears gloves and he gets them checked in so they come off your record and new materials can go out to you promptly. You don't have to wait. Then once he gets them checked in, he's quarantining them. Now we're going by a series of tests run by a project called the REALM Project. That's REALM. I can't remember what the acronym stands for, but it's a joint project between a library company called OCLC, by the Institute of Museum and Library Services, which is a federal agency that provides grants that allows us to operate, and a company called Battelle. And they are testing materials that are typical to libraries, archives, and museums to see how long the COVID virus can remain viable on them. And one of the first items they tested were Braille books, and they found that the virus was no longer detectable after 4 days on Braille paper. They also tested the talking book cartridges and the mailing containers. They only tested them for 5 days, but they found that after 5 days, the virus was detectable, but at such low levels it could not be measured. So as a result, we are quarantining everything for a full week, 7 days. So it'll be on day 8 before they're used again. So we think that should keep everyone safe, both staff and patrons. And of course, once we reuse a cartridge and check it out, it's going in the mail. So the cartridge should be safe within the container, but we don't know what's happening to the container once it leaves our building. But we're assuming postal staff are wearing gloves and following safety procedures as well. But if you're uncomfortable, you're always welcome to clean off the cartridge or container once you get it. Wash your hands, spray it down with Windex if that makes you feel safer, but it should be pretty safe. as far as the testing has revealed. Machines are not quarantined, but Michael already cleans each machine as it comes in from patrons. So he's cleaning it with an alcohol-based product before he inspects it and does any necessary repairs. So we hope that will reassure those of you who might be concerned about safety issues. Now I have a reminder, anyone who has a talking book player, a digital talking book player that you're not using, please return it to us so that we can provide it to someone else who could use it. I know a lot of you are downloading books from Bard and may have players you're not necessarily using, but maybe you think you might need it eventually. We'd rather you return it so that someone can actually use it as opposed to someone who might possibly use it in the future. Of course, if you are still using it, you're welcome to keep it. And if in the future, if you return it and in the future you do find a need to use the player, we can provide one to you then. But they're really not doing anyone any good if they're just sitting unused in a closet or on a shelf, because the longer they sit unused, that battery is going to discharge, and once it discharges fully, it won't work even if you plug it in. And if there have been any subsequent upgrades to the software, they won't be on there. So an unused player is not going to be very useful to you if you decide to use it, 6 months down the road. So please return those unused players. Or if you have received talking books in the past and just kind of lost interest, please return it to us. Or if you know someone who may have passed on and the family doesn't know what to do with it. We lose hundreds of players every year from people who just for one reason or the other stop using the service. And that's a lot of money that could otherwise be spent for the service, providing more books or putting into planning for a new upcoming player. And NLS is working on the next generation digital talking book player, but it's still a few years down the road. So we need all machines available to be in use. So please return any machines that you're not using at this time. Thank you. Our biggest news is probably the Braille e-reader pilot project we're participating in. The National Library Service has asked us to be one of 4 libraries to test a new Braille e-reader for possible future use by all patrons. So we have agreed to do that. It's a 6-month pilot project, and it's not just a matter of sending out a player and you using it or not. It's a very regimented test. So we want to know what each person who participates find difficult, what they find easy, what they like about it or don't like about it. So for those of you who can see, here is the device that we are testing. This is made by Humanware, and it is a 20-cell display using 8-dot cells. It's got a Perkins keyboard type keyboard above the Braille display, and then 2 space buttons below. It's about 3 inches by 6 inches. It comes with a little vinyl carrying case with magnetic closure, as well as a lanyard so you can wear it around your neck. We have about 150 of these devices, so we'll distribute them to about 130 patrons, starting with our most active Braille patrons first. So Tracy Mania, one of our librarians, is in charge of this project, and she has been going through and calling patrons and explaining the pilot project to them. And if they agree to participate, she's giving them a registration survey. It's about a 20-question survey asking about their past experience using refreshable Braille displays or other technology, their Braille usage and things like that, just to get a baseline. Then after 2 months, NLS will give another survey to the participants, and at 4 months they'll give another survey, and then at 6 months, when the pilot project ends, they'll give a final survey, and all participants must return the device. Again, this is just a trial to test this particular device. This is not necessarily going to be the device that they will end up using. Later on this year, they'll be testing another device. As I mentioned, this one's made by Humanware. Another device made by ZoomMax will be tested by different libraries. So the same people will not get to test both devices. Tracy, as I mentioned, Tracy has been calling patrons. We want people with a wide variety of experience using technology. So we've got a lot of people who are good at downloading Braille using their own refreshable Braille devices. But we also want people who have no knowledge of using such a thing. In fact, those are probably going to be the people we're most interested in testing, because if we find it is too difficult for a novice to use, we want to know why and what NLS can do to remedy that so it will be able to be used by all abilities. So, if you are interested in using it, if you're a patron, you must already be a registered patron, and you can read Braille, but you're just not getting Braille from us. Of course, we won't know you can read Braille if you don't receive Braille from us or download Braille from Bard. So if you are interested in participating, you can call us and we'll put you on the list, the waiting list. Of course, some people who we believe would be good candidates we can't reach by phone, so it's always important to keep us updated with your contact information. So Tracy's working her way down that list. It may be another month or so before she is able to contact everyone who is interested. But we do want a wide variety of people testing this device, and each person who's willing to test it must be also willing to stay in communication with us. Let us know what difficulties they're having, because even if you have difficulties, if you call us with a question or problem, we have to log that. So NLS is serious about the testing of this. It's not just a device they're giving out for usage. We want people who will be very cooperative and stay in communication with us and let us know what their issues are with it, what's working, what's not working. And as I mentioned, you need to return it after the 6-month pilot is over. I think I mentioned, maybe I didn't mention, the device has 16 gigabytes of memory. So that's enough to save quite a few books, like thousands of books. And you can use it either with cartridges. We can mail Braille books on a cartridge, just like the audiobook cartridges we send for playing on the digital talking book player. We will send Braille books on a cartridge. There's a cable. You connect the cartridge to the e-reader, and it will automatically import those books from the cartridge to the e-reader, and they will be stored there on the e-reader. Or you can connect directly to Bard to download Braille books. You can even sideload some Braille books. So it has quite a bit of capability to it, as it can store thousands of books. So you do have the ability to create file management. So you can either delete books when you're finished with them or create folders and store them. Because if you get hundreds of books on a device, it's going to be hard finding them. So you do have the ability to manage those files. Let's see. I think that's all about this device. So we're very excited about this, and NLS is excited about this. This is something new. They provided playback equipment for audiobook users for years and years. So providing playback equipment for Braille readers is a new thing that they've been looking forward to doing for some time. And this trial is going to help them decide what device is going to be best to provide to all patrons in the future. So if you're interested in participating, give us a call, let us know. If you're already participating, just give us that feedback. And we thank you all for helping us out for the future of all patrons across the country. So please enjoy the rest of your conference. If anyone has any questions about anything to do with Talking Books or Bard, please give us a call or send us an email. We'll be happy to help you as best we can. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks, Barbara, so much. Always interesting things to learn about the Talking Book Library. We're going to backtrack just a bit. We've had some technical issues around here. So if you have questions from McNabb or Barbara Pinagor, if you will please put them in the chat room. We have someone who is monitoring that room for us. So we have questions for Cora or Barbara. We'll take a few. Ben Henderson is monitoring our chat room. And while we're getting our questions posed for our guests, I will remind you that you can always go to www.nfbofkentucky.org and you can make contributions to our organizations via our PayPal. Be much appreciated. Also, keep that phone number for voting in a safe place. Again, it's area 516-874-2710. Do you have any questions yet, Ben?
Give it a little bit longer, but so far no questions coming in.
Also would like to remind any presenters this morning, if you have a name, a screen name or Zoom name that's different than what we know you by, if you would please enter that in the chat room so that you know, we know that you're with us. I should have mentioned earlier that you should submit questions through chat, but I've got to tell you, this virtual convention is just totally above my pay grade, and with some of the technical difficulties, it has presented more challenges. I'm not sure sometimes whether Jane and Phil are trying to give me clues or they're trying to straighten out technical problems. But anyway, we will muddle through. This is not anything new to the national office. I mean, they did a tremendous job putting on our national convention, and we learned so much, but doing one ourselves is quite interesting. I've got to thank my technical crew, Phil Seif and Ben Henderson and Todd Stevens, for all their hard work. It's amazing. Any questions yet, Ben?
Nope, looks like everyone's just tired this morning.
Well, maybe. If you do have questions, you can always reach out to Cora at our Kentucky Department of Rehabilitation. I know she will be glad to talk with you and answer any questions you might have. And also, Barbara has invited you to reach out to her. So you're not limited to asking questions just this morning. If something comes to mind, you are certainly given the green light to go ahead and ask. So moving right along, if people are tired of sitting around this morning, we're going to introduce Jane and Terrence Seif. We're going to have a fitness moment. So we're going to take a fit break. And I don't know what they've got in store for us. So your guess is as good as mine.
Hold on just a second. It's not letting me use my camera. So give me just a second.
Well, Phil is going to step outside to see what's going on. I can't help but laugh. As I said, this is above my pay grade, so I'm just going to sit right here in the chair and try to compose myself. And as I said, Ron, I hope that we are making things a little bit easier for you next weekend. So you obviously seeing our problems firsthand, and you can plan for as people are running back and forth.
Yes, indeed. I tell you, virtual works good when it works. Yeah, but it's all coming together.
Yeah. Well, yesterday was.
Okay.
Oh,
you're
are they
good.
ready?
All right, I think we're good now. We were having some technical difficulties. No surprise, but I think we're doing pretty good. I'm just going to give you a chance to get up out of your chair if you can. If you cannot, do all of this while sitting in your chair, but please move your body. Some of you all should be feeling pretty good right now because you did like a good 2-mile walk with sports and recreation this morning. But if you did not, get up. First, we're going to do a little twist because I know that when I'm sitting all day at convention, my back starts hurting. Now, I know Todd's going to be very disappointed because I did not play the twist music because I am not as good as Dr. Maurer or Kathy Jackson, and I cannot dance. So we're not going to do that, but that's okay. Also, when I'm sitting all day, my hips start hurting. So we're going to do some high knees in our dresses and our fancy clothes because I know you guys all dressed up for convention, even though we can't see you. I know you are not watching in your pajamas. Okay, you really might be, but I'm not. All right, we're going to do one more thing to get our back all stretched out before we go back. We're going to reach out really big and wide, like you're giving a big virtual hug to your Federation family that you so missed this weekend. And we're going to reach down all the way to your toes, stretch out your back, leave it hanging for a minute. And we're going to come up real slow and give a big hug to all your Federation family. We miss you. Move your body. Remember, set an alarm on your phone at least once an hour. Get up, walk around your house, walk around your backyard. And I'm going to bring you back to Kathy Jackson before she wonders where we have all gone. Bye, all.
Oh, come on. I thought we'd go longer than that. My goodness. Okay. Well, we appreciate it, girls. And I know that everyone who stretched out is feeling much better. So sit back down and we will commence with the convention. I want to introduce to you next a real community partner, Dr. Craig Metter from the American Printing House for the Blind is so willing to partner with the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky in hosting our Bell Academies there on their campus, and also providing space for the National Federation of the Blind of Greater Louisville to host our monthly meetings once we get back to actually meeting in person. But we want to thank Dr. Metter for his community support. So let's hear what is happening at our American Printing House for the Blind.
Hello, NFB of Kentucky. This is Craig Metter, president of the American Printing House for the Blind. I want to thank you for the opportunity to connect with you, although virtually. I think that's our new reality, and hopefully it won't be our reality for long, and perhaps next year we can connect more face to face, which would be very welcomed at this point. I was reminded the other day, we are now 6 months into this new COVID reality, and I know it's impacted everybody and every agency and every business. And so you might be wondering, how are we doing at APH? Well, short answer is we're doing pretty good. Long answer is I'll go into long answer a little bit. When this hit in March, our first thing we did was send everybody home. Not knowing the severity of the situation, we basically shut APH down. When I say shut down, we kept operations going, but we shifted everything to in-home placements, which was very easy to do for a lot of our departments because we had been building on some of our internal structures, phone systems, computer systems that would allow us remote access for many years. The downside of that is our production facility. And of course, most people don't have all the punch presses and giant Braillos sitting in their garage. And so that raised an issue for what are we going to do with our production team, which represents about 100 employees here at APH. We made the decision is that even though we didn't have work for them to do, we would send them home and keep them on the payroll, pay them, and take care of salaries and benefits for the foreseeable future and for the shutdown. Luckily, within 12 weeks, we were able to pull everyone back into a very clean and somewhat reconfigured building, and we've been able to, since that time, that was May, since that time, using good CDC guidelines and state guidelines, have been able to keep everybody at work and going all throughout these summer months, which was critical because this is our busiest time of year in getting materials out to students. So we have survived COVID well, and everybody has been taken care of, and all things are good there. The other things about APH, what is going on there? Unfortunately, the one side, we know a few people have tried to come to APH to tour or see the museum, and of course we've had to shut those things down. And for the foreseeable future, and when I say the foreseeable future, I think we're probably looking well into 2021 before we can reopen the museum or reopen for tours for the general public. And that's kind of a similar situation for a lot of other museums and buildings right now. We're just not we don't feel it's safe to do so right now. So that will be our continued practice at APH for the foreseeable future. Another thing that is going on with APH during this time is we have used this COVID, and even though it's been kind of a pain in the rear, we've used it as an opportunity to move forward on some of our strategic goals. One of the goals we determined a few years back was we needed to venture more into the side of service and more into the delivery of products via virtual, and I'll explain that a little more. APH is, for its history, has been in the product development, creation of, and distribution of products. Tangible apparatuses, I think is what the Act says, the 1879 Act. Yeah, Braille materials, large type, curriculum. And we'll continue to do that, but over the last, that represents about 70% of what we do at APH. The other 30% of our activity is pretty much made up of what I call services, whether that be someone answering the phone or whether that be online programs or digital downloads. It's still a product, but it's provided in a little different format. The real world, as we all know, is as much about how-to as it is the actual product. And so we made a decision a few years ago to develop that online platform. And our goal was in spring of 21, a year from now, or actually it's a little less than a year from now, we would be showing off our brand new learning platform. And this platform would have content from APH as well as the amazing content that already exists out there in cyberspace. There are a lot of wonderful curriculums, a lot of wonderful videos, some how-tos that exist. And so our goal was to bring all that information to one central location so people could come to the APH website, find that information, as opposed to going to 5 or 10 or maybe even 100 different websites to gather that information. COVID kind of made us jump ahead in that, and where we really saw the greatest need during COVID was both for getting products, but now instead of getting products to schools, getting products to students' homes. And number two is you had a lot of parents at home now becoming the primary educator. If we're all honest, parents are the primary educator of their students. Whether their students are blind or not, parents are the primary educators. But now what we found is that a lot of parents were at home saying, I'm at home, I'm ready to instruct my student, but I don't have curriculum. So we had developed quite quickly on the fly partnerships with different agencies and different groups, for-profit groups as well as non-profit groups, in putting together content. And we're able to broadcast content 1 to 2 hours a day, all during the remainder of last school year, basically from April through June. And then we ran a summer school geared to different age ranges from mid-June through mid-August. And that we basically put out about an hour to an hour and a half worth of content every day. We did that knowing that there was a need. We had no idea how big that need would be. It turns out the need was huge. Our largest workshop had over 700 participants. And not just 700 participants from the US, but we had people from Saudi Arabia, from England, from different parts of Europe, and Japan attending these workshops. We averaged over 200 people every day at these workshops, and it wasn't the same people every day. Some of the participants were students of all ages. Some of them were parents. A lot of them were parents, and a lot were teachers and instructors. So that was great, a great opportunity to step in and meet a need. We know that the NFB did similar type situations or opportunities for people in the world, as well as several other organizations. So it was fun to be part of a solution to a worldwide problem. So we're continuing on with that even as we speak, and we will be launching our platform hopefully in late winter or early spring of 2021, which will be a more formalized structure of what we provided this past spring and summer. The other thing we did is a few years ago, we received the websites from AFB. These were the Family Connect, Career Connect, Braille Bug, and there was one more that escapes me right now. But we brought all those websites in. We have reformatted those websites, updated the content, and have put them under a umbrella website called Career Connect or Connect Center. And the Connect Center is the launching point. It is basically geared to be a support, to be an information center, to be a point of contact for all different groups that want to know more about blindness. And those are up and operational now too. So you can go out to APH Connect Center and see that right off our website. Launched a few new products this year, 2 new embossers. That is the first time APH has ever sold embossers, but we have 2 embossers. One is a straightforward Braille embosser called the Page Blaster, excuse me. And the other one is made by the same people that put out the Tiger line of products, which is an embosser that does both Braille and graphics. And we call that one the Pick Blaster. The idea you can do pictures and Braille at the same time. So those are up. The other thing is we launched 2 new products, both Braille products. One is a product geared towards kids called the Chameleon. Chameleon is a device that was designed with an educational platform, and it is geared more towards young students and kind of a step between all the features that you would find in a high-end Braille note-taking device, but a little more than, say, the Orbit 20 or the Braille Trail Reader. That one's called the Chameleon, and since we geared it for kids, we changed the color on it, and we created some of these what we call skins, and these are basically silicone covers that go on it, and they're in different colors, and loaded that up and allows the student to personalize that device. We really want them to be proud of their device and be proud of Braille and carry that with them wherever they go. And then one of our first big adult products that we developed was the Mantis. The Mantis is a combined QWERTY keyboard and 40-cell Braille display. We didn't know how well this would sell, and it has sold very, very well. So much so that it went into back order status almost immediately. And then we got another shipment in and sold out of those. And as of today, we are waiting our 3rd shipment of the Mantis. Should be coming in today or tomorrow. And I fully expect that will, by the time this airs at your conference, I fully imagine we'll be out of stock again. But we have more orders coming on that. Very exciting device, being well received, and it's doing quite well. So that's it, what's going on with APH in a nutshell. It's business as usual, although it's not usual. We're doing it from our homes. We're doing it, some are here in the office. 2/3 of our staff are working remotely. 1/3 is here. We're all adjusting to this new virtual reality. Liking it at times, hating it at other times, but it's a shared experience for all of us, and we'll get through this together. And look forward to perhaps next year we'll be doing a similar talk, but we'll be doing it in person. I want to thank you again for the opportunity just to give you an update on APH and where things are. And I think I'm going to be live here in a few minutes to answer any questions you might have. Take care. Best wishes. Stay healthy and have a great 2020.
Okay. more technical difficulties. Thanks so much, Dr. Metter. It's always a pleasure to have you. And yes, I'm hoping that there are people submitting questions into the chat box. Ben Henderson will be reading those. So hopefully while Dr. Metter was speaking, you had your questions ready.
So far, still no questions.
You were so thorough, Dr. Metter, that everybody just knows everything. I'd like to remind everyone again that we will be having our business portion of our convention later this afternoon. We still have more presenters this morning, and we're going to have a different sort of training this afternoon, working with Voting Works, the company that will be training us on how to use the accessible voting ballot here in Kentucky. So that's going to be interesting. As we said, our theme this year is inclusion, and I think you can readily see just how true we are to that inclusion policy. Any questions, Mr. Ben Henderson?
Nope, doesn't look like it.
Well, hearing none, I guess we will move on. And again, I'm sure that Dr. Metter would be more than willing to answer any questions. If he can't be available, someone from his staff certainly could to answer any questions. And again, Dr. Metter, thank you so much, and hope that you can stick around. I wish I had a lunch to offer you today, but I guess I could do something virtually. I just haven't figured out how to do it yet. Because as I said, this technology is far above my pay grade. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy.
The next person on the agenda is new to the NFB of Kentucky stage, and it's Corinne Miller from the Helen Keller Center, and she is a blind specialist serving the state of Kentucky. Welcome, Corinne Miller.
Hello, everyone. I want to give you a warm virtual hello to all of the NFB Kentucky Technology Assistance Division participants today. My name is Corinne Miller. I am a deafblind specialist with Helen Keller National Center. And while our national center is based in New York, I personally live and work in Kentucky, in Louisville to be specific. So I just wish that we could all be together today and not be doing this virtually. However, until things improve around here, we're stuck with the computer. So today I just want to give a brief introduction to, what deafblind means, as well as the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program, which is also known as the I Can Connect program. So first, I just want to talk about, deafblindness. So what does deafblind mean? When everyone hears the word deafblind, I think we automatically start thinking of Helen Keller. And while she is such a great representative of the deafblind community, she is not the only type of deafblindness that is out there. So in 2014, a study was performed by the Malloy College. And in that study, they estimated that there are as many as 2.4 million individuals in the U.S. who are deafblind. So, then you start thinking, well, what does deafblind really even mean? And it's that dual sensory loss, that combination of hearing and vision loss. The federal government uses specific terms to define what that means to be deafblind, and I just want to share that with you guys today briefly before we go on to a little bit more about deafblindness. So the federal government established criteria that qualify a person to receive services under the federal and state education and rehabilitation systems under the category of deaf-blind. So to fall under those categories, you must have a central acuity of 200 or less than 20 degrees, or progressive vision loss. And then for the hearing loss, it must be so severe that most speech cannot be understood without optimum amplification or a progressive hearing loss. So those are the two definitions that federal and state have put in place. And again, it's that combination of the both of them. And really, we look a lot at that combination and how it affects everyday life. So maybe you might be born completely deafblind. There are individuals that are born deaf and then lose their vision later in life. We have people that are born blind and lose hearing later in life. Or maybe you're born hearing sighted and then you lose both senses later in life. So as I said, we all usually think of Helen Keller, but I just wanted to paint that picture of it's really a vast majority. I mean, there's such a wide range. It's not just one small little box that everyone must fit in. So I just kind of wanted to, put emphasis on that. So some common causes of deafblindness, there's three of them. So the first is going to be prenatal and congenital complications. So things like premature birth, congenital rubella syndrome, fetal alcohol syndrome. Those types of things are going to be one of the causes of deafblindness. The second cause would be genetic disorders. So CHARGE syndrome, Usher syndrome, Down syndrome. Those are going to be examples of that genetic disorder. And then the third would be adventitious conditions. So head injuries, infections, something like meningitis, or age-related loss. So the three causes of deafblindness generally are, to recap, the first one is prenatal and congenital complications. The second one is genetic disorders. And the third is adventitious conditions. So I just kind of wanted to, briefly touch on what deafblindness is. I know, again, that it can be confusing. Maybe you don't have vision and then you're like, well, I can't really hear so well either. I wonder, would I qualify as being a deafblind individual? And, VR counselors can help with that decision in helping you decide, if that might be something I can, just something to think about. Up at the National Center, at Helen Keller National Center, there are all kinds of different programs for individuals, whether you're transition age, so you're in high school, getting ready to go into college or onto the work field. If you're, older in life and you need some vocational training, you need some orientation, mobility, communication, all kinds of things. There are all kinds of programs available at Helen Keller National Center. And again, that is in New York. And so the second thing I wanted to talk to you about today, as I said, is the National Deafblind Equipment Distribution Program. And I know it's a mouthful. It is more popularly known as the I Can Connect program. And that program has been set up through the FCC. It is a program that provides equipment needed to make telecommunications, advanced communications, and the internet accessible for low-income individuals who have both that significant vision and significant hearing loss. So some of the examples of equipment might be a phone, a tablet, braille displays, anything that you need to make that distance communication accessible, and that would connect you to make distance communication. So, the phone, the tablet to connect to the internet, those types of things. Again, this is for deafblind individuals. And if you are unsure if you would qualify, you are more than free to contact me. At the end here, I will give you my email address. You can contact me and say, hey, I listened to your spiel today. I'm wondering if the ICANN Connect would be something that would be able to help me out. And then we can have a conversation from there. There is an application for the ICANN Connect program. There's also a website. It is ICANN, C-A-N, Connect, CONNECT.org. And you can find more information about the program there as well. In the application process, we do look at the hearing and vision reports along with all the other pieces of the application. So again, if you are unsure, if you're like, hey, wow, I don't see so well, I don't hear so well, I wonder if I would qualify for this program, please feel free to contact me. And I'm going to give you my email address. It is my first name, Corinne, followed by my last name, Miller, and there's a period in between, at hknc.org. And I'm going to spell that out for you. So that's Corinne, C as in cat, ORINNE dot Miller, MILLER at hknc.org. And if I've said that too fast, not clear enough, I'm sure you can contact the people at, over the NFB Kentucky chapter, and they would be happy to put you in contact with me. That is enough from me. I thank you guys for inviting me to join you virtually. And again, I wish that we were in person. I will look forward to when we can be together again. Thank you again, and have a fantastic day.
I learned things that I did not know. And that's always a good thing. I don't believe we see Corinne here live with us to answer any questions, but we were given her email address, and if you didn't catch it, we can always get that to you. We are going to change up just a little bit from what our agenda says. As you know, since we are virtual, when we do vote this afternoon on resolutions and our officers, we have to make sure that our procedure is safe and that it's valid and that your vote is cast properly. And because of being virtual, there are some changes that need to be specified, and we sent out to those of you who are registered and eligible to vote what we have called our rules of engagement. And I hope that you had a chance to read them yourself, but it is important that we vote on them as an organization again to make sure that this process is legal and one that was adopted by the convention. So we are going to have Ben Henderson read the rules of engagement, and once they are read, you have the opportunity to vote 1 for yes or 2 for no. And you will text the number that I've been giving you this morning, 516-874-2710. This is an important policy that we must adopt in order that everything is above board. So Ben, if you are ready, we would love to hear from you.
All right, just making sure. Can everyone hear me? Since this is of important business. Okay. Voting at the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky 2020 Convention. This message is to share with you some information that will help you as a voter for the 2020 National Convention of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. Note that all eligible members are encouraged to participate actively in the convention proceedings. One of the most important components of our democratic organization is the voice of its members. One way in which we can make our voices heard is by voting, electing our leaders, and passing resolutions that guide the organization's activities. Because you are a member of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky, NFBK, and have registered for the 2020 NFB of Kentucky State Convention, you are eligible to vote during our general sessions. We have arranged for a voting platform that will allow you to vote via SMS text message. The contact phone number that you have provided us when you registered for this convention will be the same number that will be registered for you to cast your vote this year. Your number will also allow us to identify you as an eligible voter. This is necessary to ensure the integrity of our voting process. Similarly, because only NFBK convention registered members are eligible to vote, you should not forward or share this email with others. You should read the proposed principles of engagement being recommended to the convention by the Board of Directors of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. This document, which follows below, is being proposed to the convention as the voting process during the virtual convention this year. This proposal will be offered to the convention for consideration, as it proposes several procedures that are different from the process followed in our in-person conventions. We urge you to read it carefully. Once the registration window has closed, enrolled voters will receive additional information about the voting process to help prepare for the floor votes that will be held during the convention. National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky proposed 2020 National Convention Principles of Engagement. Nothing in these rules of engagement is intended to change Article 6, Section 1 of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky's Constitution. The convention remains the supreme authority of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. It is the legislature of the affiliate. As such, it is the final authority with respect to all issues of policy. Members in attendance may participate in all convention discussions as a matter of right. Any member of the Federation may make or second motions and propose nominations. These procedures simply implement the method for following the Constitution in an electronic convention. The principles and procedures below are intended to provide clarity and advance notice of how the convention will be managed in 2020. Every member in good standing who registered for the convention by September 15th, 2020 will be enrolled in the NFBK 2020 voting system. All voters must have been registered for the NFBK convention by September 15th, 2020. All individuals who are members and are registered for the convention will constitute the pool of convention voters. 1. All voting will be done via SMS text message. 2. Any matter must receive 51% support of the votes cast by the convention voters present and voting in order to be affirmed. 3. Present and voting will mean the subset of convention voters who cast a vote on a given question. Thus, voters who are indifferent to a matter cannot block its consideration by the convention by choosing not to cast a vote. 4. All votes will be allocated 2 minutes for vote time. 5. After 2 minutes, if the outcome of the question under consideration is unclear, the chair will poll the voting members by voice vote for a definitive outcome. 6. If voting indicates 75% support for or against a question prior to the 2-minute period elapsing, the chair may elect to move to the next order of business. 7. Concerning nominations from the floor. Nominations can still be made from the floor. These nominations must be placed by an eligible member and may only be made for an eligible member. These nominations should be placed in the chat box. The person being nominated will then have 2 minutes to accept the nomination, also via the chat feature. In the event the nomination is accepted, voting will commence via the voting platform after all calls for nominations from the floor have been made. Resolutions. 1. Resolutions to be presented to the convention must proceed through the resolutions committee process as usual. 2. Resolutions being recommended to the convention by the committee will be posted to the website at www.nfbofky.org. If you are eligible to vote, you will send your text vote to the following number: 516-874-2710.
Okay, everybody. Now the voting window is open. Please text your vote. Number 1 for yes, that you accept the rules of engagement, or 2, that you reject the rules of engagement. Now it's open. Let the voting begin. And also, if you're having technical difficulties, I want to remind you to call Jane. I won't give that number right now because it might confuse people. But she hasn't helped us out this morning here, so.
I'm just staying quiet.
She says she's staying quiet. Yeah.
That's as much as I can do. I think that's quite a feat.
Uh-huh. I've never heard Jane be quiet.
I told you it was an effort. That's my contribution.
Okay.
I voted, it says. Thank you for my vote.
And you should. Thanks for reminding me, Jane. And if you did successfully cast your vote, you should get a text thanking you for voting. If you did not, you can try again as long as you're within the 2-minute voting window. That'll run people away. That'll run people away. Again, if you so desire, and I hope you do, you can go to www.nfbofky.org and make a contribution to support the projects of the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky. We have our general fund. We have our Cameron Fund, which helps send our members to state and national conventions. And we have our Bell Academy Fund, which will make sure that we preserve Braille and keep our youngsters' fingers on the pulse of things by learning Braille and teaching them other valuable blindness skills as they come to our summer programs. These children are usually between the ages of 4 and 11. That's not written in stone. We can evaluate the child to see, even if they might be 12, they might work very well in our Bell program. So we're hoping that we can go meet face to face this coming summer. So are we still voting? How's this looking?
We're at 21 votes, no no's.
Well, all right, let's keep voting. How much longer do we have?
30 seconds.
There's about 30 seconds left to vote. If you did not get a response saying that thanking you for your vote, hurry up and try again. Phil's over here monitoring.
All right, let's find it. 17 more votes.
Okay, time is up, and it looks like the rules of engagement have passed unanimously. So thank you all. We will now proceed with our presentations. And as you all know, voting has become a very hot topic this fall because of the national election in November and the ever importance of a independent, secret absentee ballot. So we have with us this morning from our protection and advocacy here in Kentucky, Attorney Leslie Jones and advocates Casey Philpott and Jeff Edwards to talk about our rights as voters.
Hello, I'm Jeff Edwards, the Director of the Kentucky Protection and Advocacy Division. Kentucky P&A's mission is to protect and promote the rights of Kentuckians with disabilities. As the 2020 general election rapidly approaches, we are pleased to be participating in the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky's conference and discuss voting rights, and we thank you all for the opportunity. It is my pleasure to introduce Senior Staff Attorney Leslie Jones and Advocate Casey Philpott. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Leslie Jones. I'm an attorney with Protection and Advocacy. All day long, we're bombarded. Political ads on the radio and on the TV. 'Tis the season. Voting day is just around the corner. In our country, in the United States, there's no law mandating that we go to the polls to cast our ballot. But if you do want to vote, you have a right to vote. You have a guaranteed right to vote. That right's found in the United States Constitution and amendments, as also found in the Kentucky Constitution and amendments. When our country was created, it was decided that states would conduct election. The United States Constitution cedes the authority over elections to the states. So Kentucky has the ability and the right to establish voter eligibility, and they can enact any law and regulation to create the voting system in Kentucky, as long as it's not contrary to federal law. Now, federal laws tell states how to conduct elections during the federal process, and they're virtually the same. So, if you want to vote in Kentucky, they've established the procedure, the criteria. It is, are you 18 or over? Will you be 18 on election day? Have you lived in Kentucky for 28 days before the election? Have you been convicted of a felony, but your rights have been restored? Have you been declared incompetent, but your voting rights are intact or they've been restored? Were you born in this country or a naturalized citizen? Do you not claim to vote anywhere else besides Kentucky? If you answered yes, you're eligible to vote. You have a right to vote. But many of you, you're aware that you have a right to vote. What you want to know about is you want to be able to experience the whole voting process and have equal access or opportunities to the voting system. In Kentucky, we have expanded voting this year. So we have expanded absentee voting because of COVID. We have expanded in-person voting because of COVID. In this country, in this state, there are laws that ensure people with disabilities or people with language barriers get the right to vote. Now, there are several laws that pertain to access to voting for people with disabilities. The provisions might be a little different. How they're implemented might be a little different. And the mechanisms, if you believe the law has been violated, might be a little different. But they all work to ensure accessibility for people with disabilities. Some of these laws you've probably heard of. Section 504 of the Rehabilitation Act, the Americans with Disabilities Act, the Help America Vote Act, and in Kentucky we have the Kentucky Civil Rights Act. All of these laws ensure people with disabilities have equal access, have the opportunity to have a public accommodation. Now in Kentucky, since we have expanded voting options, we have the ability for the first time in the state to have an accessible absentee ballot. That's available. We have expanded in-person voting. The laws ensure accessibility all through the system. And yes, we're still fighting for accessibility. When you go to the polls in person, you have the right to have an unobstructed pathway You have the parking lot with handicap parking. You should have an accessible entryway. You should have accessibility in the polling place, and you have the ability to have an accessible machine. Now, the accessible machines are open to anyone. Anyone can use them. Those are some of your rights. If you have questions about the process, about accessibility, or you're having a problem, call your county clerk, the County Board of Election. Protection and advocacy is also available for you and the State Board of Elections. Please, this is a very brief overview of the laws that are in place to protect your rights. But if you have specific questions, you need some help because you're encountering a voting problem, PNA has staff through the week. We will also have a voter hotline on Saturday for early voting and on election day. You have lots of opportunities. Pick one, go vote.
Hi, I'm Casey Philpott with Kentucky Protection and Advocacy. I'm here to talk about voting rights. In 1789, voting was written into the U.S. Constitution. At that time, each state determined who could vote, and religion was often used as the deciding factor. Religion as a determining factor didn't end until 1810. In 1850, voting rights were limited to white male property owners. The thought behind this decision was that property owners would have a vested interest in who represents them. In 1870, the 15th Amendment was added, stating, "The right of citizens of the U.S. to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the U.S. or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude." In 1920, the 19th Amendment gave women the right to vote. That was soon followed by the Indian Citizenship Act in 1924, giving Native Americans citizenship and the right to vote. It wasn't until 1984 the Voting Accessibility for Elderly and Handicapped Act was passed. This required that all polling places be physically accessible to people with disabilities for federal election. In 1990, the ADA was passed, which covered all activities of state and local governments, as well as required that state and local governments give people with disabilities an equal opportunity to benefit from all of their programs, services, and activities, including voting. It wasn't until 2002 that the Help America Vote Act was passed. HAVA authorized federal funding for states to upgrade voting machines and eliminate and replace all punch card and lever machines. Voting machines must provide voters with an opportunity to privately and independently verify, change, or correct the ballot before it is cast and counted. HAVA also requires that states must ensure that at least one machine at every polling place meets enhanced requirements for accessibility for voters with disabilities. Finally, HAVA requires that states must provide ballots in multiple languages with all jurisdictions covered. Although accessible machines have been present in Kentucky for some years now, this election is the first election in Kentucky history with an accessible absentee ballot. This election, Kentucky will have access to a ballot that will allow devices such as screen readers, jelly switches, and zip puff technology to be used when completing a ballot. Although progress has been made, we must still work toward full accessibility that allows for independent and private voting. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. Do we have any questions in the chat box? While we're waiting, I'd like to thank Leslie and Casey and Jeff for your presentations, and also to thank you. It has really been a pleasure working with the three of you in obtaining accessible absentee voting here in Kentucky, and really enjoyed our Wednesday meetings that we held there for about a month, and it certainly proved to be beneficial now that we have an actual system, Voting Works, that will be providing the accessible electronic ballots. Ben, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Kathy, it doesn't look like it.
All righty. Well, again, if you have questions, if something comes to mind later on, just contact me and I can put you in touch with these three knowledgeable individuals. And again, thank you all. This is the first time that you all have been a part of our National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky convention, and I certainly hope it's not the last. Okay, we're going to now hear a few words from the director of the Kentucky Board of Elections, Mr. Jared Deering.
Hi, thanks for having me today. I really appreciate the opportunity to be able to speak to you and this community. When I first took this job, one of the first meetings I took was with protection and advocacy. It's important, one, because I think that it's one of the most important functions of my position is to make sure people have access to the ballot. And it's my philosophy, my theory that we need to meet voters where their needs are, as opposed to forcing them into where we need them to be. And I think too often in voting systems, that's what we ask of our voters. We ask for them to have challenges, unfortunately, depending on where their needs are. We try to make a one size fits all. And so one of my first meetings that I took was protection and advocacy, specifically so we could talk about how we could continue to move towards a system that was equitable for all of our voters, in which voters had access to the ballot and in a way that they could cast that ballot on their own and do so securely and safely. So first, I'd like to thank Secretary Adams and Assistant Secretary of State Jennifer Scutchfield for their work in making sure that this was part of our emergency admin regs, of making sure accessibility was part of the change we made in our elections to make sure that voters had access during this pandemic. So one of the things that we immediately tried to pivot to is how do we now implement an accessibility portal that would allow voters with visual impairments, voters with physical impairments, to be able to have access to that ballot at home and be able to still securely and appropriately mail that in. So one of the first things we did is we continued to research and look at different platforms. And what we ended up settling on was Voting Works as a platform. One, because of the work the National Federation for the Blind had done with them previously. And not only making sure that that product was something that was useful, but also secure. And so one of the things that I found most compelling about it was, from a technical side, was that the marking of the ballot takes place on the client side and not the server side. And in layman terms, what that means is when someone downloads a ballot on this Voting Works platform, they are marking their ballot on their computer and their computer alone. Some of the other platforms that we had looked at and we had seen, you had to integrate with the software, and that software marked the ballot on the server side, which means that there was still some residue or some record of what that ballot looked like. And the idea that we would stand this system up, and one of the tenets of voting is the secrecy of the ballot, wouldn't be held. And so we really like this platform. We think it's really accessible. I know Leslie and Casey had mentioned this, but JAWS accessible, Jelly Switch, Sip and Puff, and ultimately this platform and this system is going to allow someone for the first time in their lives in Kentucky to be able to fill a ballot out on their own. We stood this thing up in a very short period of time. Obviously, during a pandemic election, during a presidential election, our bandwidth is pretty low to begin with. And I had a conversation with my IT staff when we were determining how to move forward with this. And a couple of them had said, I'm really worried about our ability to stand this up in a short period of time. And my response to that was, I want you guys to think about the voter who in their entire lifetime has never had the opportunity to fill a ballot on their own without someone giving them some type of assistance. For so many of us, we take for granted the idea that we can go into a polling booth, mark that ballot, that we then take that and then insert it into a ballot box, or even apply for an absentee ballot and fill it out at home and then mail it in. And for so many members of our community who have visual impairments or accessibility needs, they've never had that opportunity before. And this is an inflection point in our election system. And so I told my staff, if you can't see the value of someone being able to fill out a ballot for the first time in their life on their own, then we're definitely in the wrong business. So with that, I'm extremely excited. We went live with this product on Wednesday, so that means it's now available. We are asking anyone who is interested in utilizing this platform to contact their county clerk. We've made it a really simple process. If they contact their county clerk has a very minimal process on their side to enter that person's data in. It's literally one button they have to push. It enters that person's information into the system. If there's a different mailing address than what they are registered at, they'll take that information, input in the system. We make sure we have the correct email address. And then ultimately that ballot is then emailed to that voter. They can download it onto their computer, mark that ballot, print it out. And at the same time, when they apply for that ballot to be sent to them by email, what we also do is we send a ballot packet to that individual's residence. So we send them an inner security envelope and an outer envelope, postage paid, and in which that voter's information is the exact same information that we put on all of our absentee ballots. And that was another important step for us. We didn't want this to be so different than the rest of the community that somehow it stood out. Those ballot envelopes allow the voter to be able to then fold that ballot, put it inside the security envelope, sign both the inner and outer envelopes, and then mail that back just like every other ballot that is sent back to the county clerk's office. They can either put it back in the mail or they can have it delivered to a drop box, a secure drop box at the county location. And the other step we took as well is we hole punched the signature line. Our state has a requirement for signature lines. If someone has to use a mark, we have 2 signature witness requirements. But what we wanted to do is make sure that there was a tactile, sensory ability for someone to feel that envelope, identify the 2 hole punches that we put in, and be able to sign their name in between those 2 hole punches. And so, we're taking steps. And to Casey's point that she had mentioned earlier, this is a first step. It's one that I hope is one of many in making sure that we're more inclusive for this community and making sure that they have access to the ballot and can vote both safely and securely. If we had any other questions.
If anyone has questions for Mr. Daring, if you could submit them in the chat box, we'd appreciate it. Mr. Ben Henderson is monitoring our chat box.
Looks like we do have a question.
Good.
Specifically, how do you obtain a PIN to log into the voting work system?
So what we're doing is we are asking voters, again, we had a very limited time to set this platform up. As we move into our next election cycle, we're going to look at usability on both the front end and the back end. But to specifically answer your question, we're asking you to contact your county clerk. Your county clerk's going to then input your information into the system. And then from our side, the platform will actually reach out and contact that voter through their email, at which point they'll be given their information to be able to download that ballot.
Any other questions, please submit to the chat room.
All right, we got another one in. What if you already requested an absentee ballot through
the normal
your
process.
state's website?
Yeah. So this is actually an interesting question. I'm glad you brought it up because this is something that we'll probably have to look at. What we tried to work with P&A as soon as we realized that we were going to be standing this up. We worked with P&A to kind of work through a time schedule. What we've done is we've asked Protection Advocacy to work with the disability community to be able to discuss what the individual needs of that voter are. So just because it is an accessible portal does not mean anyone that doesn't have specific needs of access can use that. And what I mean by that is we still have a new system that's being put up. It's while it's been tested in other states, this is brand new to Kentucky. And so we're trying to make it as simple as we possibly can for both the voter and the clerk. And that means if someone has the ability to be able to mark a ballot on their own, to fill that out, we are recommending they use the traditional portal. If they do have that accessibility need, then we are recommending that they call their county clerk to be inputted into the accessibility portal. If you've already applied for an absentee ballot to be mailed to you, there may be some opportunity to cancel that and then input you into the other system. What I would recommend with that is to contact your county clerk. If your county clerk, and again, Kentucky has 120 county clerks. We've provided training for those clerks to understand what this portal is and how it works and what their responsibilities are in helping to process that voter's ballot. But again, we have a lot of clerks that this is brand new to them and they might be a little confused if you contact them. So what we're recommending is if you contact the county clerk and the county clerk isn't sure exactly how to process this, isn't sure exactly what your rights are, I think Leslie said this perfectly. Contact P&A, advocate for yourself, contact the State Board of Elections, let us know what you're dealing with and if you're having problems in getting that done at a county clerk's side. So while this isn't necessarily a question that we have a direct answer for right now, I think it's something we could work out. And the best way for you to be able to do that is to contact both the State Board of Elections or your county clerk.
All right, good question. Ben, any further questions?
None coming in immediately here.
Well, there again, if someone thinks of something later on this afternoon or tomorrow or next Wednesday, you can contact the county clerk or Kentucky Board of Elections or Protection and Advocacy and get an answer. I see that our next guest is with us, and we're so pleased to have her on the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky stage this morning. She is a former employee of the Kentucky School for the Blind. I believe she was in the outreach program before she moved to Virginia, where she was a teacher of the blind. And now she has come back to Kentucky and is the new principal at the Kentucky School for the Blind, Miss Peggy Sinclair Lewis. So let's welcome Hardy NFB of Kentucky. Welcome to Miss Sinclair Lewis.
Hi, good morning. I hope you all can see and hear me, and I really hope that you don't hear I have two dogs, and one is a puppy, and they like to wrestle, so I apologize ahead of time for any growling or wrestling sounds that you may hear. Kathy, thank you so much for inviting me to talk today. Again, my name is Peggy Sinclair Morris, and I am the new principal of the Kentucky School for the Blind. I have been there since the 1st of July, and I was previously at the Kentucky School as a director for outreach services, and left there for about a year and a half and went to the University of Kentucky to work for the Kentucky Deafblind Project. I am a former teacher of the visually impaired and orientation and mobility specialist. I started out as an O&M specialist in Houston, Texas, and I worked at the Lighthouse for the Blind in Houston. And it was there that I started working with the adults that are deafblind. And so I went and got my master's in deaf education from Gallaudet University and went right back to being a teacher of the visually impaired and O&M specialist in public schools for about 16 years. And I've kind of moved around a lot from New Mexico. I'm a New Mexico native. Went back there for a few years, and then we lived in Virginia for many years. And then my husband got a job at U of L, and we moved to Kentucky in 2014, where I started as a director for outreach services. So just want to tell you a little bit about what's going on at KSB right now. As many of you know, we are continuing virtual instruction. We made that decision based on the metrics document that the governor released several weeks ago, because as you know, we're right in the middle of Louisville, and Jefferson County, of course, has a higher count of cases of COVID. And we did look at each county where we have a student and made the determination based on that. I believe, I don't know how long we'll stay on virtual instruction. It hopefully won't be for much longer. But we provided each student with a device, a laptop that has Zoom Text Plus and JAWS and NVDA on it. All of the instruction is via Microsoft Teams. We do have some students coming in for some one-to-one instruction based on their needs. And currently, as of yesterday, we have 66 students. We just got another student ARCed. We had an IEP meeting yesterday and have a new student that has just moved here from Tennessee. So we're really excited about that. So again, right now, what's going on at the schools, we're preparing for when the kids do come back. We have a plan, a reopening plan in place, which is on our should be on our website now. We just started a new section on COVID-19 information. So it lists our reopening plan, our letters that the administrative team has sent out to families, anything COVID related. And so I kind of feel like that's what I've been doing since July, is all related to COVID and how are we going to safely bring the students back? What is our plan? I'm super excited to be back at KSB. I left for about a year and a half. I had an opportunity to work at the Kentucky Deafblind Project and couldn't turn it down. So I worked there for a year and a half, and then the principal position came open, and decided that I really wanted to be back at KSB. I feel like it's a big family. It feels like where I'm supposed to be. We have a great staff. We only had one new teacher this year. We have a new adaptive PE teacher who graduated from, and I'm drawing a blank here, Central University of New York. He's studying under Laura Lieberman. And so we are super excited to have him as part of our team. We are unfortunately lacking in O&M specialists right now. So we're working with UK and Dr. Donna Brostickley and Dr. Kaiser on getting some O&M folks in, because I'm sure you all know that that is one area that is incredibly hard to find folks in the field. People are retiring at around, a large group of teachers of the visually impaired and O&M specialists have recently retired. So we're waiting for those younger folks to come up, and fortunate to have an O&M program at University of Kentucky. However, again, due to COVID, the current class, they weren't able to do their internships. So unfortunately, they're still trying to work out that. I know I'm happy to take questions. Again, I'm so excited, and I really appreciate Kathy inviting me to speak to you all. But I am happy to take any questions that you all might have. Would love if you're ever, once we have kids on campus and COVID's a little more under control, would love to have you guys come and visit.
Ben, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Scrolling up a little bit just to make sure I didn't miss anything. Nope, doesn't look like we've had any questions come in.
No questions.
Well, let me thank you for being with us this morning, and I certainly hope that we can strike up a working relationship, and anything that we can do to help you out in your position as principal and working with the kids and mentoring and being on campus. We are certainly willing to do whatever we can. We advocate for the rights of the blind of all ages. That includes, our youngest to those who have a foot in the grave. So we hope that we can count on you to be with us at conventions down the road, and hopefully they will be in person. They are much more fun, I can tell you that.
Yeah.
So Ben, do we have any questions in the chat box?
Nope.
Okay, then I guess then we have wrapped up the morning session, and I hope that all of our presenters were able to stick around and learn a little more about the National Federation of the Blind of Kentucky and who we are and what we do. And at this point, we can adjourn. Everyone go have a delicious lunch. Oh, wait a minute. We've got door prizes. Woohoo! Thank you, Phil. He's over here punching me. Anyway, so I'm going to turn this over to our door prize team, Ashley, Lonnie, and Emma, to draw for, I think it's 3 more door prizes.
Thank you, Madam President. We have 3 names we'll be drawing, and remember to please send the email to nfbkdoorprize@gmail.com. We'll start a 10-minute clock after the last name has been drawn. You'll have 10 minutes to respond. This door prize will have a code phrase, which will be Kentucky School for the Blind. So please do include that. And as a reminder, if you are wanting the gift card for Amazon sent to a different email address, please do include that in the email if that address is different from what you used during registration. Our first recipient is Sherry Anderson, Mr. Kenneth Jones is the second one, and Mr. Byron Sykes. All right, so I'll be looking for those emails. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Lonnie, and I'm so sorry I almost forgot you. Anyway, and if you failed to hear the results of the rules of engagement, it did pass unanimously. I'm sorry if I thought I announced that, but if I didn't, there it is. So if there's no further business, again, let me thank all of our presenters and our technical team and anybody else that's out there praying for us. Let's go have a delicious lunch, and we'll see everybody back here promptly at 1 o'clock Eastern time. Thank you.